What if the person sent to destroy you was the only one who ever truly saw you? This is the story of Rumi, a girl who carries the weight of two worlds on her shoulders. A girl who smiles for millions of fans every night, but cries alone in the dark. And Jinu, a demon who was never supposed to feel anything. But hearts don't ask for permission. The stadium lights burned white-hot above Seoul. 80,000 people screamed a single name in perfect unison. X. And somewhere inside that thunder, Rumi felt absolutely nothing. She smiled anyway. That was the thing about Rumi. She had mastered the art of the performance long before she ever stepped onto a stage. At 7 years old, she had learned to smile through pain. At 12, she had learned to dance through exhaustion. And at 22, standing at the absolute peak of the K-pop world, she had perfected the most difficult performance of all, pretending she was okay. The encore ended. The lights cut. She walked off stage into the cool dark of the wings, and the smile dissolved like sugar in rain. "You were incredible," said Mira, falling into step beside her, still breathless from the final choreography. Mira's energy was always kinetic. She crackled like electricity even when the music stopped. The crowd lost their minds when you hit that note in the bridge. Rumi pulled the earpiece from her ear and handed it to a crew member without breaking stride. Mira caught her arm. Gently. "Hey, you okay?" "Always." Mira stared at her for a long moment, that searching, careful look that only a best friend can give, and then let her go. Because she knew, just as she always knew, that Rumi would talk when Rumi was ready. And not a second before. In the dressing room, Rumi sat before the mirror and looked at the face that belonged to the world. The perfectly contoured cheekbones. The smoky stage makeup. The hair that their stylists had spent 3 hours perfecting. She picked up a wipe and began to remove it all, layer by layer, until the girl in the mirror was just a girl. Her phone buzzed. Message from Celine. "Meeting at midnight. My office. Don't be late." Rumi closed her eyes. Course. Celine's office was nothing like the glamorous executive suites most managers kept. There were no gold records on the wall, no framed magazine covers. Instead, the walls were lined with ancient texts, maps of ley lines, weapons mounted behind reinforced glass, and a whiteboard covered in symbols that no language scholar would ever recognize. Celine stood with her back to the door when Rumi entered, studying a map pinned above her desk. She was beautiful in that ageless, unnerving way, the kind of beauty that didn't soften anything. In another life, people might have called her cold. In this one, they simply called her effective. "Sit," she said without turning around. Rumi sat. "There's been a development." Celine finally turned. Her expression was controlled, but Rumi had known her long enough to read the tension in her jaw. "Gwi-Ma is moving faster than we anticipated. We intercepted a signal 3 nights ago. He's building something. A counter-unit." "What kind of counter-unit?" "A group. Well, designed to look human. To infiltrate public spaces. Concerts, fan events, media appearances." Celine's eyes met hers. "Designed specifically to get close to HUNTR/X. The room felt colder. "He wants to compromise us," Rumi said. "He wants to destroy you," Celine corrected. "He knows that if HUNTR/X falls, if the world's most visible demon-hunting unit is publicly disgraced or eliminated, the psychological damage to humanity's resistance will be catastrophic. You're not just performers, Rumi. You know that. You've always known that." Rumi said nothing. She did know. She had always known. That was the weight she carried. Not just stardom, but something far heavier. The knowledge that every song they sang, every arena they filled, every moment of joy they gave to their audience was also, quietly, a battle cry. A light kept burning in the dark. "Who leads it?" Rumi asked. Celine hesitated. That hesitation, from a woman who never hesitated, told Rumi everything. "His name is Jinu." They first saw each other at the SMA Awards. It was staged, of course. Gwi-Ma was not a creature who left things to chance. The encounter was engineered down to the lighting. But no one had told Rumi that. And no one had told Jinu that the script was about to go off course. His group performed second. They were called Sable, 4 figures in black, moving with a precision that was slightly too perfect, smiling with warmth that was slightly too calibrated. To the audience, they were breathtaking. To Rumi, watching from the wings with demon sight activated, they were something else entirely. But Jinu was different. Even through her enhanced perception, she couldn't quite read him. His energy signature was demonic, yes. But there was something else underneath it. Something confused. Something almost searching. She filed it away. She was good at filing things away. The collision happened in the hallway between the green rooms. Literally, she turned a corner with her head down, checking her phone, and walked directly into a wall of black fabric and the faint smell of winter air. She looked up. He looked down. For exactly 3 seconds, neither of them moved. He was tall, taller than she'd expected. His features were the kind that made people stop mid-sentence, though Rumi had long since trained herself not to register that kind of thing. What she registered instead was his eyes. Dark, ill. And for just a fraction of a moment, before the perfect calibrated idle smile snapped into place, she could have sworn she saw something real flicker through them. "Sorry," he said. His voice was low, unhurried. "I wasn't watching where I was going." "Neither was I." She stepped back. Her demon sense was pinging, steady and controlled. "Ret. Affiliated. GWM's unit. You're Sable. You're H&R/X. Was. You were incredible tonight." The compliment landed with an ease that felt almost dangerous. Like he meant it. Like he wasn't supposed to mean it, but he did anyway. "Thank you," she said carefully. "And then, I have to go." She walked away without looking back. She told herself it meant nothing. Mira found her on the rooftop an hour later. "I saw you talking to one of the Sable boys," she said, settling beside Rumi on the railing, legs dangling over the Seoul skyline. "It was 30 seconds. You have a look. I don't have a look. You have the look. The one where you've decided something doesn't matter and you're working very hard to make it not matter." Rumi said nothing. Below them, the city blazed with light. Millions of lives, millions of small beautiful ordinary moments, all of them unknowingly protected by the thin line that AR/X walked every single day. "He's one of Gwi-Ma's," Rumi said finally. Mira was quiet for a moment. "What did you feel when you looked at him?" "Nothing." Mira nudged her shoulder. "Try again." The honest answer, the one she wouldn't say out loud, was confused. She had felt confused. And in her world, confusion was the most dangerous feeling of all. Jinu had not been made to feel things. That was the design. Gwi-Ma had constructed him from shadow and intention, a perfect vessel for a single purpose: infiltrate, destabilize, destroy. The emotional architecture of a human being had been given to him only as a tool, a set of instruments to be played when manipulation required it. He was supposed to feel nothing on his own. He was not supposed to replay a 30-second hallway conversation on a loop for 3 days. He was not supposed to notice the way she had looked at him, not with the wide-eyed admiration he received from everyone else, but with something sharper, more real, like she was actually seeing him rather than the projection. And he was definitely not supposed to care about the difference. But Gwi-Ma had miscalculated one thing. In building Jinu human enough to be convincing, he had built him human enough to be changed. The second meeting was at a charity event in Busan. Both groups were scheduled to attend. Gwi-Ma had arranged it, though neither Jinu nor Rumi knew the other would be there until they were already in the same room. She was across the venue when he arrived, talking to a young girl, a fan who had won a meeting lottery, who was approximately 9 years old and shaking so hard she could barely hold her poster. He watched Rumi crouch down to the girl's level, watched the way her whole body language changed, all the controlled, careful professionalism dropping away, replaced by something genuinely warm and unguarded. The girl said something. Rumi laughed, a real laugh, not the stage version, and carefully signed the poster and then held it up next to the girl's face so a parent could take a photo. Jinu stood very still. Something shifted inside him. Quietly. Without permission. He found her at the drinks table 20 minutes later. This time it wasn't an accident. "You're good with her," he said, nodding toward the corner where the little girl was still glowing. Rumi glanced at him sideways. Measuring. She was easy to be good with. Most people aren't like that with fans. Even the ones who seem like they are. "I know." Oz. "Are you following a script right now?" The question hit him like cold water. He looked at her. She was looking back with those same two seeing eyes, and for a moment he felt something he had no name for, something between exposure and relief. "I don't know," he said. And that was the most honest thing he had said since he was made. She studied him for a long moment. Then, without another word, she picked up 2 glasses of water and handed one to him, and they stood there in silence watching the rest of the room, and the silence was not uncomfortable, and that was the most dangerous thing that had happened yet. "You're getting close to him." It wasn't a question. Celine had a gift for presenting observations as facts, which meant there was no room to deflect. Rumi kept her eyes on the training mat. "I'm monitoring him. That's the assignment. Monitoring doesn't look like what I saw at the Busan event. You were watching. I'm always watching." Celine sat across from her, and for a moment the armor dropped, just slightly. "Just enough. Rumi. I need you to listen to me carefully." "I'm listening." Gwi-Ma built Jinu. He designed him to be exactly what would appeal to you. He studied you, your patterns, your emotional architecture, your history. Everything Jinu appears to be. It could be engineered. "Could be," Rumi said. "Not is." Celine's jaw tightened. "This isn't a romance novel. In the field. In the field, the most dangerous assumption is certainty." Rumi finally met her eyes. "You taught me that. You also taught me that the best intelligence comes from proximity. I'm close to him because close is where the information is." A long silence. "You know," Celine said quietly, "I was 24 when I made the same argument to my own mentor. About someone I had no business getting close to." The room felt heavy. Rumi had never heard Celine speak in first person about her past. Not once. "What happened?" she asked. But Celine was already standing, already closing back up. "Train harder," she said. "That's what happened." That night Rumi found the old files. The ones Celine kept locked in the back of the archive system. Not because she'd been specifically looking, but because she'd been specifically not looking, which in her experience usually led to the same place. There was a name. Photograph. A mission report dated 18 years ago. The photograph showed a younger Celine. Still composed, still unreachable, but with something softer in her eyes that time had since eroded. Beside her, a figure she didn't recognize. The mission report was filed under compromised. Terminated. Rumi closed the file. Sat in the dark for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and typed a single message to a number she wasn't supposed to have. "We need to talk. Not for the mission. Just talk." 3 minutes passed. The reply was 4 words. "Tell me where." "Come." They met on the pedestrian bridge over the Han River at 3 in the morning. It was the kind of hour that strips everything back. No performance, no pretense, just the cold air and the black water and the distant sound of the city breathing. Rumi arrived first. Jinu arrived 2 minutes later, hands in his pockets, and they stood side by side looking at the water. "If this is a trap," he said, "it's a very atmospheric one." "If this is a trap," she replied, "the bait would probably be better dressed." The silence that followed was almost comfortable. "Almost." "I need to ask you something," she said. "And I need you to answer honestly, even if honesty isn't what you were built for." He looked at her. Something moved behind his eyes. "When you look at me," she said carefully, "is it because you're supposed to? Or is it because you want to?" The question hung in the cold air between them. He was quiet for so long that she began to build the walls back up, began to reach for the professional distance, began to remind herself that Celine was right and this was foolish and, "I don't know how to explain what's happening to me," he said. "I was given a purpose. One direction. And then I met you and it's like..." He stopped. Started again. "It's like someone moved the only fixed point I had. And now I don't know which way I'm facing." The river moved below them, steady and dark. "Gwi-Ma is going to ask for a progress report," she said. "I know. What are you going to tell him?" "That I'm close to gaining your trust." He paused. "Which is not entirely untrue." She turned to look at him. He was already looking at her. And in the absence of an audience, in the absence of a script, in the 3 a.m. realness of the Han River Bridge, she saw what she had suspected since the first hallway collision. He was not entirely what Gwi-Ma had made him. Something real had grown in the cracks. "There are things I can't tell you," she said. "Things about who I am and what I do." "I know what you are," he said quietly. "I've always known. And yet here you are. And yet here I am." The city hummed around them. One of Seoul's endless ambulances passed somewhere in the distance. Above them, the first pale hint of pre-dawn was beginning to gray the eastern sky. "If Gwi-Ma finds out you're wavering," she started. "He'll rebuild me," Jinu said. Simply. Without drama. "Or he'll unmake me." "Yes. That doesn't scare you." He considered it. "What scares me is simpler than that." He looked at the water. "I'm afraid that I'll do something that can't be undone." "To you?" "To the people you protect." "I'm afraid of what I was made to be." It was the most human thing she had ever heard. And that, more than anything, was what finally broke her open. She reached out and took his hand. Carefully. Like she was making a decision she couldn't take back. "Then don't be that," she said. Gwi-Ma knew before Jinu said a word. He always knew. That was the oldest of his powers. Not strength, not fear, but perception. The ability to see the small fracture lines in people before the cracks became chasms. He had been doing it for centuries. Jinu stood before him in the dim chamber that served as their base. All shadow and cold stone, a deliberate counterpoint to the blazing warmth of the stages and arenas where the demon hunters built their power. "You were on the bridge," Gwi-Ma said. Jinu said nothing. His silence was its own answer. Gwi-Ma studied him the way a sculptor studies a piece that has begun to warp. With detached, professional disappointment. "I gave you everything," he said. "A face, voice, story. I built you to be exactly what she would fall for. And you," a pause, "fell. It's not that simple. It never is for those experiencing it." Gwi-Ma stood. He moved slowly, deliberately, the way old and powerful things move, with the confidence of something that has never once been in a hurry. "She is a weapon, Jinu. Dressed in sequins and stage light, yes. But underneath all of that, she exists for one purpose: to oppose everything I am building." "So do I have to be what you built me to be forever?" Jinu asked. "Is there no room in your design for choice?" Gwi-Ma almost smiled. "You were not designed for choice. Choice is the gift I never gave you. Because choice is the beginning of betrayal." "Then maybe," Jinu said quietly, "you made a mistake." The air in the room changed. Gwi-Ma looked at him for a long time. "Fix this," he said. "Or I will." Everything came apart at the Seoul Dome. HUNTR/X was headlining. 50,000 people, the biggest production of their career, the kind of night that people talked about for years. And beneath the stadium, in the infrastructure of concrete and cable that the crowd above never thought about, Gwi-Ma was making his move. Celine felt it first. She always felt things first. She found Rumi in the moments before the show. 3 minutes to stage call, hair done, earpiece in, the professional armor fully assembled, and gripped her arm. "He's here," she said. Gwi-Ma. "He's underneath us." Rumi's eyes sharpened instantly. Stage self gone, replaced by something older and harder. Mira. Already moving to the lower level. Celine's grip tightened. "Rumi. Jinu is here too. I don't know whose side he's on." The answer came faster than either of them expected. The lights in the backstage corridor cut out. And then Jinu was there, emerging from the dark, and he was not composed, not calibrated, not the controlled idol performance. He was breathless, urgent. "He's targeting the power grid," he said quickly. "If it goes down during the show, the crowd panic alone will." He stopped. Looked at Celine. Looked at Rumi. "I know you have no reason to trust me. I know what I was sent here to do. But I'm telling you where he is and how to stop it, and you have about 90 seconds before it's too late." Celine's hand moved to the weapon at her hip. "Celine." Rumi's voice was steady. "Certain." "Let him talk." Beat. The longest beat. Celine's hand dropped. Jinu talk. And every word was true. What happened in the tunnels beneath Seoul Dome that night would never be reported in any newspaper, documented in any official record, or discussed on any fan forum. The 50,000 people above experienced a flawless concert. The lights dipped for 37 seconds during the second song, which everyone assumed was a dramatic effect, and then blazed back brighter than before. Below, in the dark and the noise of pipes and cable, A/X fought. And beside them, for the first time on the right side of a fight, Jinu fought too. JWM escape. He always escaped. But his plan was broken. His foothold in the city severed. And the price he hadn't calculated was losing Jinu. Mira found Rumi afterward, sitting on a concrete step in the service corridor. Her concert outfit torn at the shoulder, holding her own hand like she was trying to keep something together. "He's gone," Mira said gently. "I know." "He got out before Celine could." "I know." Rumi looked up. Her eyes were dry, which was almost worse. "He did the right thing. And then he ran because staying would have made him a prisoner. And he knew that." Mira sat beside her. Said nothing for a while. Just was there. "It's not over," Rumi said finally. "Whatever this is. It's not a story with an ending yet." "No," Mira agreed. "It's not." Above them, the crowd was singing. 50,000 voices carrying the last song of the night up into the Seoul sky, bright and loud and full of the kind of feeling that reminds you why fighting for it is worth everything. Rumi closed her eyes and listened. Gwi-Ma calls it a weakness. The capacity to change. The capacity to choose something different than what you were made for. But maybe that's the most powerful thing of all. Rumi still performs. She still smiles for the cameras, still carries the weight of two worlds, still fights in the dark so others can live in the light. But sometimes, backstage, when the noise of the crowd is at its loudest, she looks for a face she knows shouldn't be there. And sometimes, just sometimes, she thinks she sees it. Jinu is still out there. Changed. And moored. No longer GWM's weapon. Not yet anything else. But he remembers a hand reaching for his on a bridge at 3 in the morning. And he remembers what she said. Then don't be that. So he isn't.